All right. Hi. How's it going? Hope you are doing well this evening, day, whatever it is, wherever you are. Hope you're excellent. Today we're going to be taking a look at the upgraded characters. This batch, I would dare say, is pretty hype. And you know me, recently I've been critical of Wotv, I've been positive on Wotv, I've been all over the place. So it shows that I am a good ruler, right? Because your subjects are willing or understand that you are capable of great compassion and great violence. Did I just say I was a king? Just to, engage you a little bit. Let's talk about what the hell we got to talk about today, which is this batch of characters. We got this is the batch I think I have been waiting for ever since it was announced the most out of most of the batches we've seen this year. Glacie, Sadali, Cyrell, Guardius, Camilo, Elshra, Tyrell, and Engelbert. Because I actually really like all of these characters. Also, in my previous video, I said some let's hope for Final Fantasy Tactics remaster shown off at the PlayStation Showcase. This video, let's pray for some Final Fantasy IX remake. All right, get in it. All right, so who are we going to talk about first? Well, we're going to save the best two, I think, for last. So let's start off with a bit of a surprise, which is Camilo. Now, I know what you're thinking. Camilo's in the bottom of your pile. You don't really care about this character. You probably don't have too terribly much nice to say about him. And dear viewer, you'd be kind of right. Honestly, Camilo, dream ability is pretty interesting. I mean, looking at master abilities, he's gotten HP, light attack, and spirit. Then he got increased HP, light attack, spirit, agility, and dark resistance. And now his dream ability is getting him 25% HP and 25% attack, which I do know there are Camilo fans out there who really like him and swear that he's actually pretty good. This is a pretty big boost in terms of like characters that we are looking at and how powerful they can potentially get. This is a pretty big boost. Now, is he going to be like the deciding thing? Kind of. I mean, Raph's one weak point seems to be like spear-based characters, and this is a light spear with a fair amount of dark resistance in combination with other light characters. It could theoretically get there, but I am not going to be the one to test it. I'm going to wait for somebody else to do this one. And I'm just going to sit back and watch. So the other skill that is upgraded is his job level 25, which before was a 90% reduction in magic damage, which is an incredibly good barrier. It's one of the best in the entire game. It might be the best, but I generally like overall both side barriers than just specific barriers. It now also increases AoE resistance and debuff resistance. So 25 for AoE resistance and debuff 50. I think this is generally really strong, and I think that Camilo benefits from this a lot. I do think that there is potential with how strong and some of the great tools Light has been getting for this character to potentially really do more. Now, of course, he is not Oberon. Wow, that took a second. He's not Oberon, so his jump abilities always are going to feel a little bit weaker than the best in the entire game. And while a magic barrier is generally nice, it doesn't necessarily help him survive a ton. He does have protect, but it still feels weaker than a lot of other like top DPSs right now. So I'm gonna say that while I am generally surprised and feel like this is a pretty big boost for him, I don't know if it's necessarily long term going to be like the most like a absolute meta definer, more maybe a meta outlier, and that's generally pretty good. Next up, breaking into the wind element, let's finish off the selection quests with the ghost with the most who can boast the best roast. It's Guardius. And Guardius, we're going to take a look at him. He has gotten so much in the way of improvements. Wind attack and damage and magic chance and decreased chance of being targeted. And now he gets 10% agility and AoE resistance. So overall, he's gotten a lot of stuff to push him towards being better. So what are we getting this time? Iria, which I believe is, his job level 25. Big AoE with a good amount of distance, decreases AoE resistance by 30 and deals damage. Overall, a mod increase, and in general, like, he's just going to deal more damage with this. AoE resistance is one of the more prominent resistances out there. So I am curious about whether or not this can get there. And basically, like, I feel like Camilo, if we're looking at selection quest characters, is the better of the two. And that might have been a better way to look at these selection quest characters, of which one I think is generally overall better. I get distracted by something on my toenail, which is digging into my skin. Have to fix that. Do fix that. I think that Guardius is weaker still than Camilo, and I think Camilo generally has maybe a little more with just what's going on JP right now. All right, so yeah, I think I'm gonna put Camilo over the better of the two, but I'm still gonna wait and see if somebody else tests this on JP to see if it's really worth it. So now we're gonna drop back down and take a look at our 3 lower tier characters, but not necessarily bad characters. Starting off with Tyrell, who interestingly enough is one of the characters I believe I have upgraded him to a decent amount, a 115 out of 120. So I'm invested. Let's see. Increase slash attack resistance penetration by 40 with an untranslated effect. Interesting. I believe I saw it a little bit earlier as to what it was. Let's take a look at his other upgrade that we're getting here. Which, going back, because I hit the wrong button. This was one that I thought I knew beforehand, and I'm just gonna have to pull it up on another source because this is the data that doesn't quite translate properly. I'm just finding it. Pay no attention to the man behind the mirror. Here we go. And yeah. Okay. So basically, we'll talk about this first. His HP increase and restore HP is still the same amount. He's getting debuff resistance of 100% for 3 turns for self, which is interesting. It means that he can't be debuffed and has a ton of resistance. He's also getting elemental chain resistance now too, which is pretty cool. It's also of 80, so it's pretty high for him at the start. Increases defense penetration by 40 and increases healing power by 30, which overall, in combination with some of his abilities, feels pretty generally good. And he's getting chain resistance of 40 too. That's the one that wasn't translated on the actual Wotv calc. Honestly, Tyrell feels pretty solid for a low-cost character that is really difficult to debuff and kind of just generally pretty tanky and harder to get through now. This might be the limited cost, lower cost character that I think Water has kind of been looking for on a pure water team, maybe even a water ice team, because this is just really cost efficient for a character. And now he is just, I mean, he's almost always going to cast that ability, and he's getting a lot out of it. Elemental chain resistance, debuff resistance, and he's also upping his damage. So kind of curious to see whether or not I might just pull the trigger and get him to 200 because, I mean, I'm interested. So yeah, next up we will jump into... let's jump into Elshra, our light low-cost character with the blue-haired girls. Alright, taking a look. Agility increase of 10%, decrease attack skill activation time by 150, which in combination, her abilities are pretty damn instant, or pretty close to being instant. And this time we're getting Meteor upgraded. So Meteor before was a single target ability that dealt a 220 mod. dispelled physical and magical buffs, and increased if haste or float by 100% mod. So it was a pretty strong ability. And now it's effectively giving her a 300 CT restore for herself. Nice little tempo ability on a Time Mage. Time Mages are almost always worth taking a look at. Phoebe is just one of the characters, I think, the longest long-term that people have been really, really happy with. So looking at Elshra here, it's kind of interesting because she can deal pretty well with this, hit from a fairly long range, keeping her out and back. And I mean, this is a really hard-hitting ability, so I think there's this is another really, really good upgrade for a specific character. Next up, I guess we gotta, just because I'm keeping a specific way of doing this, is Tyrell. And Tyrell is a character that I have had 120'd basically since she came out, because I love her design, I love her look, and I think I'm going to be really, overall, probably going to be upgrading her too. All right. Take a look. Dream ability, accuracy plus 15, critical evasion plus 15, so a little more survivability, a little more chance of hitting. The skill that we are getting upgraded is her support skill, which means that it's permanently active and it is a reaction block rate of 50. I mean, I actually still just like this character for a limited cost, and I think that the reaction block rate here is generally pretty nice. I feel like Tyrell might be the most tamest because she hasn't been around as long as some of these other characters, but maybe the least exciting of it, just okay, and that's kind of it. All right. Now I have to break some terribly sad news. Recently, I actually broke my account here on Wotv after a long time of resisting and a long time of just being incredibly lucky. I got incredibly unlucky over anniversary, and I finally got my first Sadali. So here we go. Let's talk about Sadali. And if you're wondering if I'm going to build him, no. All right, talking about Sadali. What is Sadali's upgrades? Because this is a character who has been like in almost every wind party for a very long time at this point. And yeah, there's a good chance that we're going to be seeing more of him because increased magic of 15%, slash attack resistance of 10, magic resistance of 10, makes him overall just generally harder to kill. And the ability, of course, that got upgraded is just basically his best. His auto revive ability, which now becomes a wall of text that your opponent cannot get through. So before it was basically a 200% chance for auto revive, with increasing chance of being targeted by 4 for the ally and not himself. Overall, just one of the, definitely one of the things that was making wind really good. So let's read this wall of text. Now, if re-raise is active, chance of being targeted is higher. Single target resistance goes up by 20. Critical evasion goes up by 20. If auto revive has been is 200 chance of auto revive for self. Following re-raise's effect, also give single target resistance of 20 and critical evasion of 20. So pretty interesting here that it is just more survivability on this. I think that this is overall still just really, really, really good in comparison to some of the other characters that people have been using recently. I think this pushes a little more into Sadali solidifying his place in the win team. I wouldn't go so far as to say like this is definitive because obviously there's a character that boosts earth and dark resistance that we talked about recently from I think the beginning of the month is when it happened, and that was pretty monumental for some wind units taking on like dark and earth based stuff and being really successful at it. So Kadia maybe is a little bit more still going to be so long as the meta is the way. But if the meta shifts to more random stuff, Sadali can easily, I think, find a good way back in. I'm not saying that he's the best ever, but it is a fairly good upgrade on an ability that he constantly uses. So we have, I think we're down to our final two, and we've saved what I think are the best for last. So let's get the most obviously good upgrade out of the way. And as you can see, I snapped 140'd her. I didn't even think about this. I didn't even really look at the ability. Glacie is one of the best characters the game has ever seen. And the only reason that most websites have kind of downgraded her official status is because Glacie has become a little long in the tooth in a game where power creep is inevitable. And she has kind of fallen out in terms of how strong the earth and how strong some of the other elements are getting. And Glacie DPS is really good still, so you shouldn't be too surprised that her Dream Enhancement, she hasn't even gotten her Master Ability 2 yet, but Dream Enhancement is 15% HP / resistance up by 15%. As for her skill, basically she got debuff resistance of 30. She still has her accuracy of 25, she still has her defense penetration of 40, and her AoE resistance of 30. And I know what you're thinking. Umber, you usually pick apart units that just don't get that good of a upgrade. You're usually on them. Glacie is still just one of the damn best units in the game. And with a 140 pushing her to be even tankier and harder to kill, her DPS was always there, and it's still there in comparison to a ton of other units. Glacie, if you have this unit, just 140 her. Doesn't matter if you're a wind user or not. I think this character is still one of the best and can absolutely still will be one of the most important going forward. So yeah, I think this puts her right back into contention for being a absolute top tier unit. And last but not least is Engelbert, one of the characters that I think people have been waiting for this guy to get his upgrades for a long time. And I'm gonna be just like, this is a character that recently I've been using a lot more and quite impressed with his self-healing abilities, with his damage resistance capabilities. But you know, they felt a little less than perfect. So what are we getting here? Single target resistance of 10 and agility plus 10%. Fantastic start here. We're also still don't have his master. Oh, we do have his master ability too. Never mind. Dreaming ability here. I mean, single target resistance just keeps him alive better, and agility of 10% here just fixes one of the things that was generally his biggest problem. So with this agility increase, he's pretty well on the level of where we want him to be, and I think this will make him a really good alternative to Warrior Light. But hey, we still have an upgrade to talk about, so let's go back and check the down ability. Wait a minute, that sounds really good. Yes, his 200% chance to ignore a fatal attack has been improved yet again. Now, this one was previously improved to give generating hate, which is one of the most important things we do. It was also nullifying confusion and paralyze, but now the big thing we are going to be getting is increase elemental chain resistance of 80 for 3 turns if he has one of the following effects. Now, of course, this can be canceled out. This is not necessarily the best thing in the entire world, but this character, Engelbert, has a metric ton of HP, and him going up to 140 pushes him almost up to 15k without any reincarnations, with just generally pretty good equipment and maybe even a VC. He is a very, 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 very tanky boy, and fully reincarnated, which is definitely possible since he's one of the first characters to ever be included in the game. There's a good chance that this guy can really push very high HP very, very quickly. And the elemental chain resistance is effectively keeping him alive. He can heal up real fast. He can give himself barriers. He is a very, very good free-to-play tank, and I think overall a contender for just one of the best tanks, period. I'm actually going to make that claim. I don't know if it's a good claim. As you can see, I haven't snapped 140'd him yet, but potentially very, very soon. Yeah, I think that Engelbert got a really solid upgrade, especially for a tank. Really targeting the areas where he was kind of weak, pushing him to be generally better, and improving one of the abilities that is a foundation in the same way of Sadali. So yeah, this up batch is, I think, really great overall, just to look at what we got. I think that Fly Glacie absolutely recaptures her place as one of the best. The extra stats is just going to push her to be even better than she already was, and that's all she really needed. Sadali and Engelbert saw two of their most essential and foundational abilities improved to just be overall better, and that will sure up their chances to be just continue on teams. Guardius versus Camilo. I like Camilo overall better, but I think Guardius might be good, but I'm going to sit back and wait and let other people try this. And last but not least, Elshra, Tyrell, and Cyro. I think Tyrell is the most okay, but I liked her as a unit before, so probably going to 140 her. Tyrell, I actually really dig, and kind of this might be the Bayro of water, and generally I was really pro on Bayro, so I'm going to be pretty pro on Tyrell, and that's cool, because this is a character I've ignored for a long amount of time. And last but not least is Elshra, who I think is an interesting one. In general, though, like Phoebe just being lower costed might just trump this character from ever getting too much. But Elshra was kind of a good DPS, so if there's ever a need for a light magic DPS, keep this in mind. It could be good. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this. This is going live, and basically, I guess, well, by the end of this video, about 35 minutes before that PlayStation showcase. So as for all of you Final Fantasy fans out there, hoping for some good stuff, and we got some good stuff here. Thanks. See ya.